5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You're live with Neve.
All right. Hey, everybody. We got a special edition here. It's just Saturday afternoon. We're talking to a friend of mine from Los Angeles, so from Studio City, more correctly, a beautiful part of LA. My friend Matt Lee is an excellent musician, producer. He's one of these all-around, well-rounded musician types you'll find in LA and New York and Nashville and Miami and wherever we gather to eat and feed. So it's just we're gonna just be on here. We're gonna be talking about the state of rock and roll, a little bit about recording, a little bit more about Matt, where he came from, what he's done, where he's going, and that's it. We'll be just sitting here jabbering for about an hour, and hopefully all my friends who are into the music stuff and that side of things rather than the morning show routine, you'll just hear us talking about studios. And hey Rick, how are you? We should Rick, we should certainly have Adan join us today. That would be great. All right, so here we go. I'm going to bring on my friend Matt. Hey, bud, what's happening? You out there in the rainy, wet misery lands, huh? Los Angeles?
Yeah, it's a little wet over here. It's been kind of like sunny on and off today, though, funnily enough. But we're expecting more rain soon.
Too bad. I was hoping it was kind of slacking off, you know?
Nope, there's your weather report.
Well, I guess it'll just clean up some of the, detritus and fill up all the aqueducts and all that stuff. So maybe there'll be some positive side. I don't know. You mentioned earlier there's like landslides up in the canyon and pretty wild and crazy. As always, LA's it's so different from New York. The whole vibe. I can see why people live there compared to here, and vice versa. You always have like the whole got the earthquake thing and the fires and. Everybody back east, everybody looks at it and they're like, oh my God, California is going to fall into the ocean. And yet it always seems to work. It's like Manhattan downtown, it's the crazy as hell down there, but it's worked for 100-something years, and a couple of 100 years actually. And it just seems to work. It's chaotic for the outside observer. It's like going to Mars, but I love it here. And I love it in LA too. It's just beautiful. So what have you been up to? Let's talk a little bit about music. You've been producing, and tell us where you're at. What's new and exciting?
Well, I don't just produce. I mean, I play in bands too, and I'm working with Laurie from the Nymphs.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got an upcoming record with Paul Rossler's Kitten Robot Studios. Bruce Duff is involved in that too. They're partners.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you know Bruce. Do you know Bruce?
No, I don't. No, tell me about it.
Bruce owns XXX Records. They broke James' addiction.
Okay.
They had Poison too.
All right. Very cool.
Poison's first record was XXX. So Bruce knows how to break down.
Your singer seems really amazing. Got great voice. I was just listening to her a little bit.
Inger, she's great. She's an amazing writer. She's a great talent. The Nymphs did very well to begin with. She's a cult status hero and or heroine, and she's responsible for a certain genre of music. It's the glam thing, and it's kind of dark stuff that she's noted for.
Mm-hmm.
And this record that she did is really, really great. I mean, she went out on a limb because the first track on it is Gloryland. You know that one?
Mm-hmm.
She did it a cappella, and it's a whole load of vocals on it. It sounds like a chorale, and it's a chorale of her. And I think there's a few pardon me. There's a few other people on it, like maybe the guitar player that played with me on it, Buddy, might have been singing on it. I think Paul Rossler sang some on it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a really, really nice opening. And then we have the whole band on all the other 10 tracks.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, how would you compare it to her previous stuff? I have a couple of her songs queued up if I can play a clip in a minute. How would you compare her new stuff? Is it a dramatic change of genre? Is she how is it a different approach? How is she approaching things this time?
I would say that's a good question. She tends to sort of like have a liking for sort of really sort of liquidy, sort of swirling psychedelia kind of, things in mind. She loves visual lyrics and
I can tell
visual
from
sound.
her way she dresses, and she's quite
She's
the
she's a
flamboyant.
real visual piece. I'm telling you, what a fashion hound she is, and she creates beautifully. She's got
Right.
exquisite taste, and she's a killer painter on top of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she loves to weave colorful design. It's amazing what she can do, and she's very expressive. I was thinking about it the other day, how she's able to sort of, emote the way that she does vocally.
Mm-hmm.
It gives the song a whole different dimension when you got her doing it.
It's interesting. I read she's a Jersey girl, which I went, wow, this is great. And it's a wild state too. We have so many people from Jersey who are out in LA and who've just in all the entertainment biz. It's amazing how many of us are out there. New Jersey expats. Where did you start your career from?
Where?
Where did you start your career? Where did you grow up?
Well, I'm an LA kid. I grew up in West LA, and I always had interest in music. I mean, when I was in junior high, they gave me 2 music classes a day, which most of the kids didn't have.
Right.
And it just kind of sprang out of that. In 9th grade, I had an active cover band that was being employed. And then when I was like 18, I got taken out on the road and played a lot of local gigs with this band, Blow Up. They were signed to Bump Records at the time.
Okay,
so
I remember Sub Pop.
Yeah, and I played with them, and then from there I played with a whole bunch of other people. It just kind of led to a lot of things. I met Peter Case when he was in a band called The Nerves with a guy named Jack Lee because of Blow Up gigs. And they had a band called The Nerves. Jack Lee wrote 2 songs for the Blondie record, Don't Leave Me Hanging on the Telephone and Will Anything Happen, for Parallel Lines. Yeah, and Peter was in that band, and they were performing those songs. And when Jack left the band, Peter and the rest of the guys had a band called the Breakaways, and they kind of auditioned me for that, but nothing ever came of it. And then he formed the Plimsouls, and the scuttlebutt back to me was that I was a little too green for it, and I didn't have a car. And I was like, in West LA by the LA Country Club over at Wilshire and Comstock there with my parents. And they were rehearsing way out in Paramount. And it was like, for me, that was like, I don't know how I'm going to get there.
Look who Elizabeth's here to say hello. Elizabeth Berliner is saying hello to you.
Hello.
She's Harry's old girlfriend, Beth.
Well, hello. How are you?
Right. She'll type back in a sec. So that's pretty cool. So I was curious when I saw that you did the work on the Joni Mitchell project. Now, was that something that you, how did you get that? I noticed there was do you have a brother who works with you?
No.
No. Okay. I thought I saw another name, Matt, and so I was confused a little bit. That's cool. There's some erroneous information out there. And Elizabeth says she's putting out some new music soon. That's great.
Cool. Yeah,
cool.
No, regarding the Joni project, which one?
I don't have it in front of me, so I feel
I
like
did 2 records for her.
I think it was the second.
The second one, I remixed her record song to a seagull for her.
And what about
the first one that I did for her was this box set that she did called Love Has Many Faces. Really beautiful record. I mean, it's pretty
For
amazing.
sure.
Yeah, there's all
And
these amazing selections on it. I mean, gee whiz, going through that entire selection and everything of all her songs, and sort of, having a crash course on her catalog was really an eye opener.
oh man, she's just such an amazing talent. And I mean, God, she's written tons of great stuff. Um,
Unbelievable stuff. She's incredible.
I agree. She's one of my favorites since I was a kid. And I noticed you had something to do with the Jocko thing. We were friends with the people who did the Jocko movie, and he was to
Oh,
me one of
Robert Trujillo produced that, and I got associate producer credit on that for bringing Joni in on the film, and also I helped with getting some unseen Jocko footage. It had never been released, and Joni
is that down
allowed
in
me.
the stuff in Miami with his children in the yard and all the home
No,
stuff?
no,
Oh,
the stuff that was never seen before was the stuff that I got. The stuff that I got was from Joni, and it was from the Shadows and Light tour that Jocko played on with her.
yeah. That was one of my favorite tours as a young guy, man. I learned every lick on all those tunes, the ones I didn't know from growing up listening to her. That was just a phenomenal tour. I mean, of all the she took a great turn into jazz. I mean, I like the stuff like a little earlier with Mingus. That stuff was just amazing. The jazz stuff, it was just like, as a young kid, I was like, I'd gone from rock and roll in about a summer in boarding school. Over that summer, I went from all the rock and roll and started digesting all the jazz that I could. And it was a big eye opener and vocabulary builder, to learn to do something a little different than that 1, 2, 3, 4, pound the nail thing. But so let's see. When you were doing Joni, and not doing her, God have mercy, what a visual. Joni, I know you're laughing if you're watching. Did she come in and actually give you some direction about remixing? Was she hands off? How was the process with that?
Well, basically what I would do is make copies and then take them to her place and let her listen to it. And then I would take notes on the corrections that she would like.
Excellent.
Then I'd make the corrections and bring it back and play it for her. And then we go through the same process until we got it all straightened out and had it, to the final copy. And at that point, I retained the copies. And when they called me from the label and asked that I go ahead and, get the copies over, I was able to do that.
Excellent. That's pretty cool. Tell me, how much time, like, would you go over once a week or every other day? How did that really go on?
On each project, because it was different for each one.
So you'd go like see her every day and drop something off, or would you?
Well, on the first one, yeah, I was going there like maybe 7, 8 hours a day with my assistant, and my assistant Steve Wessing, and we would go ahead and fire up the computer and work with Joni. And we'd start in like at about 4 in the afternoon and work until about 2 in the morning. That went on.
Sounds like the name of a song.
Yeah, this band, I was going to write something like that. I had this band Chicago in mind for it, but I figured, it would never sell. Yeah, but anyway, the record, it took like about 14 months to do, and there was a lot of work to be done. And also, I want to put a big hi, hello, and thank you out there to Warner Brothers for being so helpful during that time, because studio services were just unbelievable. Bam, bam, bam. When we asked for something, right there. Excellent. Unbelievable.
I'm sure that's cool.
Yeah, it was so great. And that shout out is for Warner Studio Services, Ali and everybody down there. Thank you. They were really awesome.
Excellent. Well, they've certainly the professionalism out in LA is just so amazing for people who've never worked there or in New York. It's just like the same thing with a New York studio. You go in a good place, it's just so easy and comforting, and the lighting's right. It's just like you can go in there and just focus.
London is nice too. I worked in England for a little bit, and I was really, really pleased with the kind of reception I had there. Difference with London versus America is that it seems that everybody is sort of specialized over there. So
right,
like, your promotion guy is going to be over here in the West End, and your manufacturer is going to be somewhere over on the East End. The guys at the offices are going to be somewhere near Westminster. The other guys at the recording office are in the Northwest End. So it's like scattered all over town. And over here in America, it's like you walk up to this one office building, this huge office building, and it's all there.
Pardon me?
This one huge office. Pardon me, that was my indigestion. I don't know what I had for breakfast today.
Hold on, please. I'm sorry. I got some.
Oh, that was your ringer. Sorry.
Another. So I apologize for this, folks. I have a neighbor.
Does she want to be on the show too?
Yes, she does. I'm hoping she'll join me. I can hear her banging on the wall.
Maybe you could do a counter rhythm.
I can. That's why I'm going to move to LA. So I can have my own fucking area. Oh my God.
She's doing Morse code for you.
Boy, I tell you what, it's a burden sometimes. We all have our cross to bear.
Maybe she's just looking for a place to park that old broom of hers. I don't know.
Yeah, I think she just bought a new one. I've seen her flying around a little more than normally.
Yeah.
But at any rate, I've responded to the. I'm sitting here talking to you in a conversational voice. Put on some headphones. That's my thing, but what can I say? That would be kind of too clever and easy and not painful. It's funny, the people who live in New York and these places, they get locked in because of the money and they're just stuck next to some horrible neighbors. And it's just, it kills me.
Oh my God.
They just get a little excited, but it's not like I'm banging a drum set,
Well, it's nice to live in a brick building for that reason, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. At any rate, boing. So I do my best. Like I say, my previous neighbor, I would be in here with my 3-piece band, and we would rehearse for 3 hours on the weekend, one day a week. And it wasn't bad. They didn't really mind, they were like, okay, for 3 hours, you could, they could cope. I don't know what it is. Tell me, do you have any kids or anything?
I've had 2 girlfriends with kids. Yeah.
The generational differences between us and some of these young, I don't know what we'd call them, but they're different. They're easily offended and easily irritated. There just doesn't seem to be a hipness running through them lately, other than my own daughters. They're pretty hip, but I see a lot of them are just so easily riled up about the most, like, they don't listen to music anymore. A lot of them, they just don't even, like, it's weird. My generation and yours, everybody always listened to music. I've never noticed in my whole life where I've seen my friends' kids who don't really pay attention to music at all, which is fine, however you get your happiness. But to me, comparing just waiting for the weekend of football or the all-encompassing world of music, it's kind of hard to relate to it, I guess. Maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know. I was always one of those guys with long hair who played in a band, and the jocks, that as far as I was concerned, we were in alien orbits. I was a strange, mysterious creature to them, and they were like an alien life form to me as well.
Yeah, the jocks all used to hang around with me in school because my band used to attract all cool girls.
I didn't get cool until the point that started happening. When I started playing in a band and being a drummer, we got along. But when I was young and I was just a nerd, they were always like, I was the 90-pound kid in the back. But I was always practicing drums even then. I just laughed because I thought about how many times I had a pair of sticks taken in my life. I'd be like, no, you can't take them. They're $5. Now they're like $20. God,
you still friends with those cool people from back then when you were a kid?
Yeah, I am. It's pretty
Bonding
wild.
element, right?
I have several of my really old friends. When I moved back to Jersey, through the joys of Facebook, it was cool to hook up and see where people are at.
I talk to my old friends from school all the time like that. I mean, gee whiz, it's just really nice to have that.
It is. If you have like those people, you end up, even though you haven't seen them in 20 years, all of a sudden
Yeah.
it's just like the same thing when you left. That energy and fun is
Oh, I see them a lot more often than 20 years. That's for
right.
sure.
Well,
Oh
there
no,
was a
I see
period
them a
of
lot.
time where I didn't see them for a long time, just being involved with the band before the internet and stuff. But I started using the internet during Bon Jovi's Slippery When Wet tour. That was the first band that I know of. I was at Full Sail studying to be an engineer, and one of my teachers worked for him as a monitor engineer. And he came in and started telling us about, you got to get email. And none of us, we were like, what the fuck is email, And so he told us, and remember, everybody, it was such a puzzling concept. We were all like, what do you do with it? So picture when I went back to my band and told them that we had to have a web page, an email, and
And they went, huh?
it's going to cost us $45 a month, which back in 92, excuse me, wrong
Yeah, I
date.
remember what
Let's
a
get it right.
drag it was back then to have to go through all that and slog through it, and how expensive it was to get a website up back then.
Yeah, I
You
had to
remember
pay
the
some
expense? It
guy.
was pretty expensive back
It
then,
was
man.
real expensive, and trying to get a band to say we're going to take one night of gigs to pay for this, they were all like, well, what do you do with it? And I said, well, it's kind of got like a picture thing and like music, and our fans can get a hold of us. And they're like, well, our fans, how are they going to find us? And I said, well, there's this thing called the World Wide Web. I was trying to explain this and drawing a Venn diagram, and they were just like, well, what's it do? How much we paid for it? And I said, you got to do this. So I being an early adapter, I was like, I bullied my way through it, and they acceded to my wishes. But
That's pretty funny.
it was cool, and I don't think it ever made us.
Well, I'm sure that they were grateful to you in the end.
In the end, they were. But I think, I laughed because we didn't know what to do, and I didn't have a real master plan or anything.
Hey,
But sometimes you
tell
just
you,
get up
brother,
that.
everybody was heels to the door on that thing.
Right. It's
Oh,
sort of like that with when COVID hit and all of us trying to do shows and keep up playing. I remember one of my bandmates called me right the first or second day when they started saying you have to shelter in place. I'd never heard that term. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? I said, I got the studio running for all day and I don't have anybody coming in. And it's just going to be me and you. And we're going to work on the album. And my friend, I'm like, look, we have like 3 guitar solos. I got to sing a couple of vocals. It'll be over in like 8 hours for sure. He goes, I can't go, man. I got to shelter in place. I was like,
no,
what do you
brother.
mean? It hadn't hit yet. Like the night before we'd been at the studio. The next day he saw it on the news. And I was just like, damn it. And I'm huffing and puffing. I didn't fully understand, like none of us did, the magnitude of what was going on. I know for you guys out west, it must have been just like one day everybody's working, same thing. And then it just shut down and people started
Yeah,
trying to piece things together at home. How
it
was
dropped like
that?
an 8-ton weight, man.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
so what did you do? Did you have anything you did particularly during COVID that was keeping your mind solid, writing songs, etc.? What kind of
Yeah, I did. I did a lot of sitting around and playing with my guitar, and I wrote a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
And I even actually started working on a couple records with some people, just from a distance at first, and then later on, when masking started. Well, actually, at the very head of it all, I did nothing with anybody. I was staying with my high school buddy,
Mhm.
and we were just sheltered down in one place up in all the way up at the top of Sunset Plaza, and I mean, we were nice surroundings and everything, great people
Right.
around, and basically just nothing to do. You couldn't go anywhere. You were locked in. You had to go to the
Locked in.
market, wear a mask, wear gloves.
I
Yeah.
found just what was the worst was busting a guitar string on my 12 string. And just you
Oh
had
yeah. Try getting another string. No shops were
mhm.
open. You had to order
Yeah.
it online.
Yeah, I was going out of my mind at first, especially. I had also been through some stuff the year before where I was in the hospital for 6 or 8 months. And during that time, as soon as I got out, I'm like ready to go play and I'm excited, to be doing things. And COVID hit in January here in Jersey. And stuff to like being finally back to health and working out and feeling great. I'm tan, fit, and ready to go. There's nothing going on. I just dropped. I don't know. I've enjoyed the time off. I've studied a lot and read and wrote songs and built the show essentially from the ground up.
Nice.
You know,
You were a lot more productive than I was in the end.
well, you know, we're still here and making it. So as long as you're alive and well, you look hale and hearty.
Yeah.
And you're lucky. That place we ate lunch in Studio City was amazingly great. I keep telling my friends,
like one of my favorites.
Definitely. My friends here, and I keep telling them, you have no Mexican food in New Jersey. And we have a friend of mine owns a restaurant here in town. It's just not the same stuff. It's because in California, they appreciate, I think, the subtleties of the different varieties of Mexican cooking. Whereas here, you get basically a taco.
I think we're closer to the Mexican border too.
Well, absolutely. I mean, but there's like a very standard one size fits all taco burrito chalupa here. I mean, a lot of these folks eat Taco Bell and they think that's good stuff. But, you know, I mean,
well,
I get
a lot
it,
of people out here eat Taco Bell.
That's true. That's true. I'll say this: of all the fast food, if I have to eat any, that would be the first thing I would choose if I have to eat fast food. But you know, I try not to go in any of those places too often.
Yeah, how much harm can you do with a bean and cheese burrito, right?
Oh, there's so many good little holes in the wall in LA. Like I ate great. I ate Mexican food like 3 days a week when I was out there.
Totally.
When I first moved to New Jersey, it was either hot dogs one day in the city or pizza in Jersey. Either one, grabbing it and either getting on the boat or the train. It took me 2 or 3 years.
I got to tell you, though, actually, you know, LA's got some pretty good pizza joints, too. Did you find any of them while you were out here?
Nope, we didn't hit any pizza while I was out there. It was a lot of Mexican, and then we had some like good American cuisine. But good steak. There's so many great restaurants, and I just let people tell me where to go. I don't know. I'm like not going to get out the guide. You can never tell. You can always buy a good, Yelp review or whatever.
Oh, the complaint line, Yelp.
Yeah. Oh God, that is like the most horrible social media platform. If you have a restaurant, it's just like the kiss of death.
Well, it's just, what do you expect from a column that's written by people that are all hangry?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, you got a bunch of hypoglycemics giving you a review before they've eaten.
Quick, I gotta have my sugar. Or this is like some of those guys and gals who drink a coffee cup this big and it's full of coffee and it goes all day. It's the perpetual. I mean, I can see it in the studio at 2 a.m, but it's a little scary. The people you have to drive with. I mean, not like anybody's kind of mild. Hey, Terry, how you doing, baby? What's happening? Yeah, Billy Joel is viewing. One of my cohorts says, well, good for you. Hey, Billy, come on over. Bring the speedboat. The dock's right down literally, I can see it from here. Come on down. Hang in the Highlands. So what's next for you musically? What haven't you done that you want to do? Do you have any dreams that you haven't done yet? Like, what's the next phase of your life musically?
You know, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of I'd like to's out there for me, but I want to be practical. And, I just kind of want to carry on in a very practical sense this year. I'm not going to have my head in the clouds about anything.
Sure.
Just looking forward to what comes and what the future brings. There's some stomp boxes I've been working on that I'm going to do. I talked with Inger about it, and also another friend of mine who will help with the load on it. But I think I'm going to do these little treble boosters. They call them range masters. A lot of guys like to use them, and they sell pretty well. And everybody always wants to try the new hot toy on the block or whatever. And I want to make one that's kind of a little lower key, a little more affordable, but I'm going to do a limited run with Inger painting a couple of the boxes and do a numbered run of those.
When you're doing that, let me know. I'd like to kind of follow. That's something interesting. Sure. I know the bass player for Paul Simon, Bakithi Kamala, you know him? He's the guy from Graceland and all that stuff.
I met another guy named Armand Sambo. What's his name? Sambaleko or something like that. He's
the guy I think who's still touring with him now.
Armand is the one who also plays in Mass Mental with Robert Trujillo.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I played with Armand. Robert's wife had a art opening at Dana Point a while ago, like a few years back, and that's when I met his son. And before Ty went out and started playing gigs, it was, I don't know, about 8 months before Corn happened for him.
Right.
And Robert asked me, what do you think of my kid? And I said, he's great. He's ready to work now. Why don't you put him to work? About 7 months, 8 months later, the kid's being announced as the touring bassist for Korn. I called
There
up
you
Robert.
go.
I told him, "Congratulations, man. You know,
No
I didn't know
shit.
you had it in the works already or whatever, but I guess
Hmm. That, hey, there's people. I love seeing folks who just they have it, that X factor, and
yeah, this kid
you,
definitely does.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
And
kid
Corn,
killed.
I think
Really
they're
great
going on
bass.
the road for the summer, from
Hmm.
what I've read.
Well, anyway, back to your friend about with the Paul Simon thing. What were you saying about him?
He came out with a little short scale bass, and it's pretty nice. It's
Armand had
affordable.
one.
Yeah, he's got one. It's amazing. The little thing. It sounds funky. Well, of course,
Yeah,
anything
they're
Bekeith
great.
he plays sounds just funky. He's got them in two different scales or tuning registers.
Uh-huh.
One's a little deeper, like it's got like a 5-string bass. It's just reinforced so you can put more tension on it. Some of those bass strings, you got an amazing amount of tension, and
Oh
those
yeah.
acoustic ones. I've seen so many really even pretty nice ones over time. If you leave it tightened up, they bow. It's just
Oh yeah,
unless
they
you,
will.
I mean, even my
Yeah, and
friends.
same with any guitar.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I know about the stand-up bass thing. When I was in 8th grade, I had to stand on phone books to play the damn thing. When I was in swing band,
yeah. That's great.
yeah, that was one of my classes in school. Of the two classes I had.
My grandson, he plays upright bass, and it's cool because he was playing cello about 6 years ago. He came up here. Now he had been learning, but just learning in school band how to read. He'd never improvised with anybody because in band, you know how it is. You don't get to jam unless the band director's gone. You know what I mean? Like you get to really jam and play stuff. But he came up, and my guitar player and we had him up in the music room. We had an upright bass. And it was so cool because I saw that switch turn in his head. And I said to him, "We're just going to play it, doom, 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 doom." And I said, "Play just that while I'm singing it." Doom.
Yeah,
And then the light, it was like amazing watching that switch turn in a
you
kid's
wanted him to
head.
do a walking line, and he produced.
And he heard it, and my guitar player was showing him, and it was like it took maybe a minute or two, and when it
Cool.
clicked, it's like I felt like myself when I be listening to a Frank Zappa record as a kid and trying to play all those Chester Thompson runs, like on the
Oh,
apostrophe era. I'd like
oh
da
yeah,
da da da. My parents would go out of their mind. I
Yellow
mean,
Snow,
Yellow Snow, Cosmic Debris. There's
all
like a
that nice xylophone work in there
Yeah,
like that.
Ruth was just it was and the drum and the rhythm section was so ridiculous. St. Alfonso's Pancake Breakfast. I mean,
Watch out where the Huskies go.
yeah, God, it was fun. But so tell me, when you were a kid, did your parents support you and like encourage you, or did they tell you to get a job? How was that in your early life?
My dad hated the fuck out of it. Oh,
Yeah,
bad word. And
that's okay.
my mom used to sneak me out the door and help me throw my stuff in the station wagon to get me out of the house to rehearsal.
That's cool. My mom was like that too. You amazed what you could fit in a Honda Civic back in the 70s. We'd have the
Yeah.
hatchback. We'd have my bass player's little amp and have this crappy drum set. I'd leave the bass drum at my guy's house, and then but it was cool. It's
My
good to
mom
think.
had a big old station wagon. You could hide 20 bodies in that thing.
Right on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
my
was huge.
stepdad had the same opinion yours did. He's like, get that shit. I'd have to have practice at home, and he'd be like, can you play another fucking song? Because it probably took us first 6 months to learn "Smoke on the Water" or something.
Oh, Smoke on the Water.
You know what?
When I was a kid, I had to get that tone, man.
Richie back in those days, Blackmore was just ridiculously great guitar player. He was very
This little
flamboyant. And
The stomp box I'm talking about is the same kind of thing that he was using to get that sound.
that's what you're thinking about building then.
Not thinking, I got a bag full of the parts here, and I've been piecing it together already.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So, did you like breadboard at first, or have a design that you used, or
No,
how
I'm
did you?
using a terminal. I'm using a terminal strip. It's got like 6 eyelets like this, and they're all connected to one ground.
Right on. That's very cool.
I mean, they're not connected to one ground. They're all 6 individual eyelets, and there's one ground on it, and it screws into your box, and that's where you ground everything down to.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah,
I can't wait. I can't wait till you if you get it out there and market it, man. Let me know. I'd love to go
they're
out and
not
give
hard
it.
to.
We'll give it a New York test, man. Give you a
It's
good
10 whole
review.
parts. What's the big problem? Putting it, you know what I mean? They're easy to do. But the main thing is getting the voltages right. There's one thing that it's going to have is I'm going to put in a bias adjustment in it so that you can use that to center in on, because batteries don't always have the same voltage, and if you're
All
using a power
right.
line, that's another voltage, and you're going to want to get that one sound out of it. And so no matter how much voltage you've got coming, you'll be able to use this one dial to zero in on the transistor to get the same exact sound no matter how much or how little
I
you've got
like
coming.
that.
Yeah,
I think Billy Gibbons would like one of those. This has
you
a
never know.
certain, I would think it's kind of a cool, I never thought about it, but that approach to it's, kind of
Hmm.
unique from what I've heard, and very cool.
Yeah, they usually just have one or two knobs on them and stuff, and then there's a couple companies that kind of do that in a way already,
Hmm.
but I've looked at their products, and then you go inside, and the actual thing that I'm looking at putting in on top of the box for you to work is going to
Right.
be put on by me right there.
Okay.
Now,
Well, very cool.
it will be a narrowly governed circuit, so you don't do any harm, but it's still going to
Hmm.
be there for you to use.
Well, that's the kind of thing I'd like. You never have enough interesting sonic things in your palette. I call them toys.
Toys, not enough
Toys,
toys.
man. And I love to, just experiment and do things that you're not supposed to do with it.
Yeah.
I once have you ever? It's funny, made me think of having a pair of NS10s once, and I'm in the studio mixing, and I smell something burning,
Uh-oh.
and I'm like, "What the fuck?" And I've got the bands playing, and to my astonished eyes, and I've been doing this. I've been in many a studio. The tweeter, I smell it, and then all of a sudden I see a poof of smoke come out of it, like the red glow of a cigarette.
Hmm.
The tweeter, to my
And then
astonished
all of a
eyes,
sudden it stopped, right? And that was
it
the end of that.
stopped, but it was burning for a second. So I pick it up and threw it up onto the patio.
Hmm.
And I went back in and I told the guys, "You're not going to believe this. I wish it was pre-cell phone days, or I would have taken a picture of it," because I laughed. I said, "I've never seen a spontaneous combustion of an NS10 in my life." And what they sell for nowadays, it's an expensive little speaker, although it's still a great speaker. There's so many great speakers out there.
Well,
It's
the
kind of,
replacement part, though, I mean, just you can get the replacement parts, and they're not that much. It's what,
oh
75
yeah,
tweeter for that
yep.
thing. Big deal.
Yeah, well, back in the day, we fixed it, and but at the time, it was just like I've never done that. It was some kind of a short that caused it, or the speaker just got toasted and then got hot, but
I
it was
had that
amazing.
happen to me in England. I
No
was
kidding.
working in a studio with Roy Pierce from the Foreskins. We had a band called The Last Resort that we were doing. It was called Horror Show when it was out here in America, but we were there in Northwest London working at AC/DC's old studio, the Battery Studio. I think they call it the Assault and Battery Studio, but it's nicknamed the Battery Studio.
Cool.
And like Pantera did their last record with Dimebag there,
Hmm.
and looking at the speakers, and I'm like, gee, this sounds great. Let me just boost the volume a little bit. What was that?
Oh
Oh,
man.
shit.
Oh man.
On their beautiful 7,000 pound speaker system.
Right, right. Some of those like big Westlake audio monitors that they
It
sell
was
for
a
twenty
disaster. I
thousand
blew the
dollars.
tweeters out, but they forgave me for it because somebody forgot to put the fuse in it and just hardwired the
They
tweeter back in.
hardwired it.
Yeah.
I had a
Somebody
pair
got
of
lazy on
those
the
big
tech.
Uris that were like that, the 813Bs. Somebody had taken the crossovers out. And when I got to the studio to work, I'm like,
Oh
why would they
God, when they
take the
do that, that's a bad
crossovers out?
mistake when they do that one.
Oh man,
It's
I was in there trying to work with it, and my ears worked back in those days. I was young and I could hear everything, and I'm like, this sounds really fucked up. I've used these 813Bs a million times, and they're soffit mounted. They're all done right. What the fuck? And I go in back and look, and I pulled it out. There's just a hole in the back. I had to look all over the studio to find them. They were sitting up on a shelf somewhere. Some previous engineer thought that he should remove them. But
well,
you know,
maybe somebody had their own crossovers they wanted to use in there.
that may have been what they did, but they definitely didn't. It was just like, and they didn't even have like
They
wire
didn't put
nuts.
them back when they were done. That's all.
No,
I've
that
had
had to
that
be what it
happen.
was.
I've walked into a couple places here in town that had that set up at one point. You
I
know.
would have never thought of that. That's good. I'll have to, it's always signal flow, man. I got to keep that in mind next time. Somebody might have done that, but
Yeah,
you know.
that's what happened more than likely.
Well,
Especially in a professional outfit like that, running something like that, for
right,
sure.
right.
Just
Well,
somebody got Alice.
I could literally sit here and talk all day, and I'd like to carry this conversation on some other time and see where we can go with it and
Sure.
talk some more. And who knows? I know what you do now a little better, so I know a lot of people out there, and I'll steer anybody I can your way.
Sure.
You know, for projects and stuff.
Yep.
There we go.
Do that.
You want to play a little something? All right, everybody.
Here comes the sun. I say it's alright.
Well, all right, man. Sounded very good. And I'll see you next time. And everybody, thanks for stopping in on this Live with Neve on a Saturday. I appreciate everybody taking some time out of their day to just stop by and hang. And let's get out of here. We'll see you next time, folks. Take care.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.